Welcome back to the Shadow Council. The four of us here are coming together to talk about deathbed dreams as a bit of a bookend to thinking back to our 16-year-old selves. So, uh, the basic question is, what is your ideal state that you would get to the end of your life, and like, what would you want to be looking back on having achieved? So, I'll kick it off first. This topic made me think of Memento Mori versus Amor Fati. Kind of smash those two together, and you've got an idea about what we're up against. And I think it's good for me to go first today because I've been really sick overnight, just a standard cold, but that always makes you think a little bit about mortality, particularly if it's a bit more serious. I'm also the oldest in the group. I'm just about to turn 50 in another year and a bit. I'm really bad at keeping track of my age, but something about that. And I'm just about to bring my father home from the hospital, who is in his final years, and I'll be caring for him. So it's all very salient points. Uh, when I think about deathbed dreams, um, I'm reminded of some of the like greatest kings and emperors and pharaohs that built like spectacular tombs as a testimony to their life. And at the end of that construction process, it was a really common habit to round up all of the craftspeople who had built that tomb for you and murder them so that the techniques that they used to build your spectacular tomb couldn't be reused by the next king and that it would like magnify your glory. And for me, this is like the most pathological way of thinking about the end of your life and the impact that you have on the rest of the world. So rather than building tombs, I think the more noble approach is to build tools, to build some method that can actually be passed on to future generations so they can build their own pyramids or their own uh, forbidden palace or Minoan vases, that they don't become these relics of lost greatness. So for me personally, the most ambitious project that I want to go to my deathbed feeling like I've made a significant contribution to the world is the domestication of a local nut tree called the bunya nut. So this tree is about 60 million years old, and it's been hitchhiking on Australia as it broke off from Gondwana and drifted north. And it's got relatives in South America that it can hybridize with, and that should be a path to domesticating it and making it a more significant food source than I think even chestnuts in the Northern Hemisphere. Enormous potential. They take about 20 years to start flowering from seed. So I've started that 10 years ago. I've got probably another 10 good years on the farm and another 10 years before I get to 70 of not so good strength and physical activity. So I've got an opportunity to get this project started, but for it to actually reach significant goals, it's going to take more than my lifetime. So in the next few years, I'll be setting up what I hope is a foundation that will last, well beyond my life. But that takes a lot of care and deliberation to pull that off, to reach beyond the grave, so to speak. And it also is worth pointing out that this bunya nut, once it's, perfected and hybridized and everyone's growing it everywhere, that's a kind of tomb. It's a kind of finished product, and 1,000 years from now, people could still be growing it and have no idea how it was created. So I'm also really determined to pass on the understanding and the methods that allow people to create similar things in the future, which I think is way more powerful because for every one bunya nut, there's like, a million other species out there that humans could be tinkering with and coming into symbiosis with. So yeah, that's the kind of the thing that I regularly return to when I think about like how much time I have left in my life. Growing trees for a living also gives you a real perspective on how short a human life is and what you can do with it. So yeah, that's I think that's enough from me. How about I throw over to Gregory? You can tell us your take on the topic next.
Thank you, Shane. Greetings and salutations, audience. While Shane is the eldest of the of this of this council, I'm the youngest, which is a fascinating position in my life. And similar with my father, he's 73, approaching 74. I I'm motherless as a child. My mother left me at 5. So it's quite an experience as a young man. including the thoughts of mortality. Michel de Montaigne once described that to deprive death of its attributes and to move to a more safer and secure path of life is depriving the value of death. To practice death is to practice freedom, and how to die is learning how to unlearn how to be a slave. When contemplating deathbed for me at a young age, which is rare for people among my age in this generation, I think of I think of multiple historical people. One of them is William the Conqueror. Another is Alexander the Great, where he said to his uh, gallant and prominent generals and soldiers, "Lay my hands out of my coffin to show that I am not a thief of this world." William the Conqueror, after his death, they were pushing his body into the casket, and he exploded from the nitrogen in his body. But I relate more and higher to Napoleon Bonaparte on his death, from being isolated once to Alba and then isolated again to Helena. And I don't remember the quote precisely, but his final words of to France, to the army, to Josephine, to the nation that he was birthed from, to the command of his gallant and friendly troops, to his obsessive lover. And for me, my lover is of art, of that child instinct. Yes, I had this higher visions of an aristocratic, elitist, and radical transformation of the earth. But in reality, I prefer to be that childlike yes sayer, that artist with finer intuition, with nights where I'm barefooted, shirtless, and dancing in circles in front of a fire, to be grounded, attached to the magnetic force of this earth, to reignite the instincts to the highest divinity of life. Or how the Norse saw the Almighty God of Alameaki, As, because As is translated to God from Old Norse. That's my higher, if not desired, wishes and ambitions upon my deathbed. And to overcome a fear of not being a monster similar to the monsters of society, of idealism, of idols, because the twilight of the idols has arrived upon us, whether conscious or unconscious of it. The next person is Lewis himself, the tiger.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg. That was very powerful vision you gave. And for me, for my deathbed wishes, I have a few goals. So what I'd like to be when I meet the great beyond is fulfilled. I think that is the word that is most appropriate. And how do I achieve fulfillment? Well, there are a few different things I'd like to accomplish while I'm on this planet. The first and most, I guess you could say, basic is the act of starting a family, being part of a community, being a respected member of a stable location, being known and liked, and basically a light and a pillar within the group of people that I know. That would be the most, I guess, simple of my desires. I also would like to, if I can, provide some sort of intellectual or scientific contribution to the world that I would be known for outside of my community, however that may be. I have a few projects I'm working on. I'm not sure what will become of them, but I can always hope and I can always try. A third source of fulfillment would be related to helping others out of out of a sticky situation that I found myself in, because in my early 20s, I had a neck accident, which basically screwed up the next 8 years of my life. And I was told that I'd basically never be able to live normally. And fortunately, the doctors were wrong, but I discovered quite a lot during those years. And I want to be able to help others so that they don't have to go through the same that I went through. And finally, if I could be part of the prophecy of the condor and eagle. So that is a Native American myth slash prophecy that states that the eagle, which represents the mind, the active force, the intellect, is going to drive the condor, which represents mysticism, intuition, and things of that nature, to near extinction before finding out that they have to live together and figure out a way to share the sky. So I don't believe that science and spirituality are incompatible. I believe that they can absolutely help each other, uh, both individually and at a societal level. And if I can be a part in, I guess, making sure that the intellect does not utterly destroy society and turn us into a 1984 hellscape. Yeah, that'll also be a source of great fulfillment. However, however I can do that, I don't know exactly, but maybe this will be a part of it. But yes, those are the main goals that I will want for fulfillment. And with that, I am going to hand it over by process of elimination to Russ. Who seems to be having some camera issues, so I could continue talking for a few seconds.
I fixed it. Sorry, I ruined my moment there. So I'll come out late to the stage, but with some anticipation. Okay, so first off, I think what I'd like to do is say thanks, guys. That was great. Second, I want to thank death itself, right? And talk a little bit about what it is and what it does for us. And I think I have an interesting relationship with it that I didn't quite. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how any of us plan for anything like that. So, but I will say that having joined the Marine Corps at 18, especially with the infantry, I think that it was pretty. There's a certain readiness, I suppose, that you have to develop, preferably before you go in. But for many, I would say it's probably not the case. Most of us are thinking about Call of Duty until we're there. But there comes a point, at least for me, where I was in and I made the decision that I made, and I certainly thought I was invincible going in. But by the end, I definitely thought, boy, I'm going to end up dying before I'm 22 or 23, and all my friends in college that are partying with a bunch of girls right now, I'm never going to get to enjoy that, right? And so that was something that I had to wrestle with, I suppose. It made me all the more joyous whenever I made it there, to college with girls, that is. But it gave me a certain kind of relationship that I really appreciated after the facts. And I think that's true about anyone that goes through anything that brings them close to any form of good suffering. is that after the fact, all the clouds are a little puffier, all the colors are a little brighter. And I told myself, um, I would say that this was probably sometime after I became, uh, born into, I went to Catholic school, a little bit into the Marine Corps. I think I rebelled against the heavens and became a very, rebellious or vengeful atheist. And I think it was shortly after that I made a deal with God at the time, whatever that meant to me. And I said, if I get through all this here, I promise I'll be happy. I'll remember this. I'll remember the pain. And if I'm just in a room without windows and it's warm and I'm bored, I will never complain again. So I try to remember that now whenever things get a little cold. uh, and and I think that I've done a decent job. Like to this day, I really am appreciative for smaller things. I don't think I would have been without the proximity to that idea of cessation of being. Now, more broadly, I want to provide an approach as well that many different philosophical traditions approach, but I really want everyone to understand to meditate on death, daily, preferably at, different levels, not just about yourself, but negative visualization, right? Think about the people that you love the most, your dog, your current life, your lover, your past, right? All of that is going to die. It's all going to die. So try to visualize that. Try to really experience what that's going to be like, right? Take yourself into a meditation, and try to feel it. Take a Sunday off and go into the woods without anything, without air conditioning or video games. Imagine all your things dying. You appreciate what you do have again. Sometimes we need to actually develop a practice like that in order to appreciate it. Otherwise, we kind of get carried away. Now, a little bit deeper. All value is derived from scarcity. So, much like some vampire shows try to teach us, if we didn't die, nothing could be beautiful or good. So it is only the finite. It is only the fact that we only have so long, and especially because we don't know when or how, why. It's only that gives such tremendous value to our lives and to every moment. It's only because we have to face the absolute worst thing imaginable. All of us, we all get to say that. We all get to say that one day, oblivion. We all get to experience that. And so if we didn't, boy, nothing would have value. Nothing we did. There'd be no use in doing any of it. So that finiteness of that death provides us is the beginning of our understanding of everything that matters and everything that has any value. Any moment that's special is only special because you don't have infinity. So it's a direct relationship. And so a moment with your loved one by a waterfall somewhere, it's like I can't express enough that each and every one of these moments, a butterfly, the most beautiful butterfly you've ever seen, everything, every good conversation, it's so important. All of these things wouldn't matter because the opposite is I like to use the too much or too little butter over too much bread, but it would be infinitely that. It would be infinitely thin. That we can't play with this idea well enough. it's just that it's that everything that we hold dear is only there because we get to die. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. A lot of people try to distract themselves from it, but if you want to really appreciate what you're dealing with, what every day is, pain, a reminder of beauty. Um, I think that's just amazing, right? And you really, I don't hear a lot of people saying that very often. Um, and that's a darn shame. I don't really know why. I suppose it's not something people like to think about, so they like to distract themselves from it. But boy, oh boy, there's no reason to do that. Um, and there's been some great traditions, warrior traditions, and philosophical traditions from Stoicism to those that like some of the Eastern samurai type, or even the Hindu and pretty much every single religion is actually about this. The whole thing, really, it's all about this part that we're discussing right now, the death part and how we approach life because of it. It's the contraposition. So anyway, um, uh, I wanted to talk about that more than anything else, but on my deathbed, I'll answer shortly. I would like, I'm working on neo-epistemic ontology. I would like to provide a new way of describing or approaching, um, well, epistemology and thought and knowledge in a way, and it's nothing, people, it's just a new way of labeling and approaching that in a systematic way that I think will be helpful for everyone. And I think the world kind of needs it right now. And there's a lot more I can say about that in the future sometime. I think that's great. Um, that's kind of my Shane's nuts. Um, but then the more fun part is creating the Shadow Council and the culture and community that exists um, in the network state that's intergeographic, that can hopefully provide home, friendship, culture, opportunities, fun. I think that who knows, a million years ago, maybe could have found some people and started a weird tribe, with teepees or something. But now I'm doing it here in this networky space, which is kind of new and fun. So I'm glad that we have this new world to try to explore, because if we didn't, I'm not sure. I don't know what I would have done. So so yeah, I'm very grateful for death. Death's great. It challenges me, and that's about all I have to say about that. So let's shoot
I,
it back to Shane from the beginning. What do you got?
I've got a question, a spontaneous one, so hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you have any notable early experiences with the concept of death? Because children, when they first start getting their head around it, I think can have really interesting insights. And my story is in grade one, we were doing a group project where we were separating needs from wants. So needs were
Hmm.
like food and water and shelter. Love was on the wants on the needs list, and I was a bit suspicious of that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll let that go. And then wants were all of the the toys and the candy and the things that your parents make excuses for not buying for you. And I'm like, yeah, this is just brainwashing to cover for our parents being stingy. But anyway, and this project went on for like a week. It was so boring. It's like 5 minutes in, it's like I get it. Can we learn something else? But no, it was cutting out and gluing and painting and blah, all this waste of time. And in my boredom, I let my mind wander. And it occurred to me, I had a thought, and I put my hand up and I asked the teacher. And I don't know the exact words I used at the time, but what I was basically saying is, aren't the needs actually wants, assuming that you want to live? Like if you want to die, then you don't need any of those things. And the poor teacher, like this is a grade one class, and all the kids started going, "Yeah, miss, what if you want to die? Then you don't need anything." and it like spread like wildfire through the class. And this poor woman had to like, you could see like her mind racing that all these little kids were going to go home and tell their parents that they learnt about the idea of wanting to die and how liberating that could be. So yeah, that's a little early anecdote of me coming to terms with the concept of death. So let's go around the same way again. Well, whoever's ready out of probably Gregory or Lewis. Oh, yeah, go Gregory.
With the concept of death, I've befriended death for thus far 10 years and ad infinitum, with my father being triple and sometimes quadruple my age, attending funerals, and my time as an altar server in a Catholic church, altar serving a funeral, both cremated and in a casket, and the quite recent death of my uncle, Uncle William Huber, and shall his ancestral spirits roam me till I die. But the concept of death and befriending death as my close friend, there was one time inside of a baseball game for the semifinals to the finals in the rec division. This was my sophomore year of high school. The first pitch, uh, because I had a batting stance to Pete Rose. If you're familiar with the Pete Rose batting stance, that was similar to mine. The ball struck my liver, like the side of where the liver is on my back, and I was on the ground for 5 seconds, recuperating, processing what happened. The next time I was batting, the pitcher deliberately threw the ball to my neck, and there was a state of paralysis there. I'd love to say brief paralysis of a minute or two, minute to 2 minutes. Everybody in the audience is watching my body twitch and jeer on the ground. My dad's saying, "Get this effing kid off the mound. He's trying to kill my son." Then, in that brief moment, death welcomed me, and I welcomed death as my personal friend, and I continued to have that path of, huh, so this is my near and dear friend. That's inseparable. That's my story and my relationship to the concept of death. I love death. Uh, Lewis, you next.
Well, I don't quite remember what my original thoughts were when I learned about death permanently, but I I believe I was more worried about those that I cared about and those that I loved, like my parents, my sister, my family, um, the teachers I liked, my friends, than I was about myself, because I don't know, it was far more worrying to think that I would never see them than that they would never see me again. And I mean, basically, all of human life and society is based around the fact that we will die eventually. And it's funny because my own mom, she she believes that people are on the cusp of discovering ways of staying alive forever. And as I've gotten older, I've thought, well, I really hope not. I hope this is impossible, because that would basically result in the extinction of humanity, because the entire purpose of life and existence is the eternal dance of creation and destruction. And if you stop that, then the you stop the process and it halts. And where does all that energy go? I don't know, but I think if death was not part of life, we would destroy ourselves. So yeah, it's fairly heavy stuff, to be sure. One quote that I remember hearing, which I found interesting, even if I don't necessarily agree with it, is There are two infinities. So the two infinities, there's the infinity before you exist and the infinity after you exist. And people consider the infinity before you exist to be far less terrifying than the one afterwards. And the person positing that asked, well, why is that? Why do we consider that to be the case? And this came from a very strong materialist, so he did not believe in anything outside of the physical realm. But it is interesting food for thought, and with that, I will pass it on by process of elimination. Russ, your go.
All right, I think my mic's ready this time. So, yeah, the reason for that is because we've already, the infinity behind us. We're here now, so uh, we won't be at the infinity in front of us. So that's the reason. Now, after answering that, I will say, what was I asked to begin with? Death, right? The first time that happened was I was convinced by my father to, that it was a good idea to purchase a sulcata, which is a tortoise from Africa. And, it would grow up and then I would have baby tortoises and I could sell them because that's what every, 6 or 7 year old wants to do. And so I went ahead and I did that. I spent $100 on this tortoise. Of course, I would get the male and dad would get the female, and then we could have a business together. Long story short, a raccoon got into the enclosure and it ripped all these tortoises to shreds. A lot of turtles too. A lot of them. Yeah. Blood and guts were everywhere. Um, it made me hate raccoons. And my dad killed thousands in response. He started setting traps for them. He even made me shoot one so that way he gave me he gave me a real James Bond a 9 mil with a suppressor on it, and in the neighborhood in Florida where we lived, that way it was real quiet, almost no kick and everything. And he just wanted to make sure, like how dads like you to kill things so that way they make sure you're a man. Uh, they still do that, I think, right? Dads, that is. Anyway, yeah, poor guy. I named him after the White Ranger in Power Rangers. His name was Tommy the Tortoise, and I didn't get any. I I lost my $100, and I learned a real lesson about death there because I lost. I mean, $100 was a big deal whenever I was 6. Let me tell you, I think it was all my Christmas money, and so that was gone, and the tortoise was gone. So, that sucked. But at least, you know, my dad lost more, so we suffered together. So that was a good experience of loss. That was kind of my first brush with it, and I just kind of had to process that. I didn't have a whole lot of I don't remember talking about it beyond that, just kind of being upset that I lost all that, both the tortoise and the money. Um, I think my family didn't make such a big thing because dad had so many animals that I just saw a lot of smaller animals die, and then he killed the raccoons, and so I think there was just a lot of like animal death. Just because of the nature of what my dad worked with a lot of animals. In fact, forgot about this. You'll love this. He actually had a animal disposal business. I forgot all about this. Exotic animals, right? So he had contracts in southern Florida at Lion Country Safari, if anybody knows about that. They paid him to go. So first off, he had contracts with the county to get like roadkill off the sides of the road and stuff. And but then he also had contracts with like zoos. So he disposed of like lions and ostriches and things like that. And I still remember, and he'd take me when I was real little, and it was really funny. And he would, I don't know if I guess he just thought it was funny, but he would say, "You want to ride it, Russell?" Oh, and a lot of horses and stuff. And so he would let me, you know, hook the winch up to the animals, and then I would get on top of it, and he would turn the winch on, and so I would ride the dead animals into the back of the truck. So yeah, I don't know what everybody thinks about that, but it was funny. I remember I got to ride lions and ostriches and all kinds of stuff. I thought it was funny. Um, Dad thought it was funny, so that's probably why I thought it was funny. But yeah, I forgot all about that. I remembered after I said it. But yeah, I that's just a cool story. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's about it on that. I don't really can't think of anything else that's kind of pertinent there. Shane, what do you got?
Do you want to go another round with a different question around death, or do you think that's enough for today?
Unless there's something real natural, if anybody has a question, real
Mm,
like
yeah,
naturally, I would say. If
I'll throw
not,
it
then
open.
yeah, yeah. If not, then I would say I'll just say thanks for joining us for this episode. We're trying to get our what do you want to call it?
A,
Training wheels or
a
training wings or
rhythm. We're
something like that.
getting a rhythm together.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so we're trying this, like, we're trying to do this highly not edited, very, the word that we wrote on the wall is authenticity, right? So we really want to come with that kind of energy. We want to make sure that what we're doing, kind of our vision is to introduce ourselves and then kind of allow you guys to kind of take part in what would be our typical kind of philosophical conversation that we'd have on a weekday night. And we invite you to kind of like think about it yourselves, ask questions, and then we also invite you. And I suppose what we should do is start putting it in the what do you call them? Like below the YouTube video, there's like a section
Yeah,
that it's like a comments
show notes.
show. Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So like we should start putting like the link for um the community basically. That way, just start in the comments, say things in the comments if you'd like, or you're if you know how to reach us outside of that, you're welcome to send us a message at any time. Really, what we're trying to do is ultimately foster the culture and foster the community. So we'll start putting like links in the show notes for both like Discord and a WhatsApp group and some things like that. We haven't worked that out just yet, but now that I'm thinking about it, we should start doing that. And then we'll have a bunch of links that way you guys can join us because ultimately that's what this is all about. Not really making a YouTube channel, but creating a community. So we hope that you'll want to be part of that.
Brilliant. I have a suggestion for next week's topic, if nobody else has any.
Cute.
What about the topic of appearances? Because I know you've been talking about wanting to get your beard trimmed, so I think
Oh yeah,
you're
maybe I'll do it for that.
yeah, yeah. How does that
All right.
sound? Because yeah, I think we've got a few more
That's
episodes
that's a
kind of
good topic because it's wide, right?
yeah.
We can say a lot of things about that. So there's a couple different routes I can see, especially if I actually do like I've been talking about, oh, well, now that we're doing these videos, I need to kind of work because I live out in the mountains all alone like a wild man, and I haven't really like actually worked on my appearances in a little while. I've kind of like done the caveman thing. So
Mm.
that sounds very pertinent to um life. So yeah, that sounds good.
So
Lewis, you like that?
You know what? I could see I could definitely see us talking about appearances. We could also discuss I don't know the perils of modernity and how to we can have another episode on how we deal with the absurdity of the modern world.
That's real big. I feel like
mm.
we could have multiple episodes about that. I have way more to say about that than I do on appearances.
Yeah, I like the appearances option because I think in these early episodes it helps people understand who we are. And I'm really loving this too because I'm learning things about you guys that I didn't know before. That picture of little Russ riding a dead lion. That's
I
amazing.
forgot all about that too. If you guys didn't ask me, that would have been gone. I don't know how much longer that memory had dormancy for. It was on the way out of the
Yeah.
of the shredder.
Okay, well, if that's everything, we'll throw it over to Greg and he can wrap it off.
Amor fati et carpe diem.
Amor fati.
Amor fati.